Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the October 8th study session, Groesville Township Board. What we decided to do is have a study session on basically our goals and objectives and what we'd like to see the township, where we'd like to see the township go. We have 3 more years on this board, and I think it's important for all of us to get together as a group and talk about this. I know, we can talk on the phone here or there, but I just don't feel that that's does any justice. So what I want to do tonight is we're going to go over these. Mickey and Kevin are excused, and I think Mark is just going to be a little bit late, but I do have a list. Kevin sent me a list, and I'll read that for what he would like to see done in the next 3 years. And who would like to start off tonight? I hope everybody has at least something they want to talk about, and we will move forward from there. So if somebody would like to start.
I can start unless someone else wants.
Jameson, go ahead.
Okay.
You can start.
So I wrote this down some time ago, and I haven't been able to get I've got a little bit of it done. So my number one priority is improving opportunities for younger families, obviously to retain and attract young families with school-aged children. And I think I've got some notes on how we could do it, but that's just, I'm not going to get into the how tonight. I think we just need to talk about the what.
Basics, yes.
Yep. So I think we need to, I put modernize our fire service. I don't know if that's the right term. I would like to see an analysis of the viability of paid on call. But more importantly, what I would like to see is a advanced life-saving or paramedic rig here in Groesville. And whether that's our own fire service providing that service, or if we contract with a local for-profit or nonprofit provider, there's a lot of options for that. But I think it's important that we have a ALS crew with paramedics because of the age of our community, right? And it's not like every single one of them is having a heart attack or trauma, which our BLS teams can deal with. But if you're having a stroke or certain types of heart attacks or other medical issues, a lot of times a paramedic can save you, and a basic EMT is going to give you high flow oxygen and drive fast, which is great. But I think given the age of our community, we maybe need to look at something a little more. And then stabilize the cost of the police, or at least disentangle it from general fund a little bit so that there's more money in the general fund for things the township and obviously this board wants to accomplish, and also consider a school resource officer. So that's essentially my top 3. I've got a lot of notes about how we could do it, but I think that's a time for another discussion.
All right, sir. Thank you very much. Who would like to go next?
I can go.
All right, Margaret.
So I'm going to start out with, I kind of broke mine down. Some of them were specific to me that, meant a lot to me. And then some I felt were group oriented. So the first one is the Township Employee Pay Scale. I know we're talking about that at the next board meeting, but it's very important that we continue to show respect for our township employees. They are a valuable resource to us. They keep the township moving. They keep everything going. And I think we need to, start looking into a more respectful way to address, their pay scale, their, at where I work, we have different salary grades. It kind of gives you something to, goals, if you will. I'd like to see us do that. I think that's more of a group thing. I'm happy to take anything on any of this on my list, but that's one of my goals for the next 3 years. I'd like to see us do something like that. Police and public safety. So I would like to see us do a much better job of supporting the staffing for the PD. It will allow them to actually do their jobs more efficiently and I think do more in the community, more to keeping everybody safe. I think there's more that goes on than we realize. I know a lot of people don't want to acknowledge that or even know that. But that's just how it is. I'd like to see us do a deep dive on the command staff pay scale. I have a lot of concerns when it comes to public safety and staffing them. It's very hard to come by public safety employees at this stage, and that's across the country. And I'd like to see us manage that a little bit better than we do. What I'm working on right now with respect to the police commission, chief interviews, we want to make sure that we're going to have really good candidates and we're going to be interviewing. We just spent a couple hours yesterday going through questions. We've been having additional study sessions to go through budget constraints and how we're going to manage things for the PD. And I think that's not just for myself. I think as a board, we're going to have to either come together on some agreement on some of these things, or I do feel that we're going to have some concerns later on that we'll need to address. And I would rather kind of do a more holistic approach where we're moving up to support them rather than doing it all at one time. Communications, I think you guys are aware, we've kicked off the e-newsletter. I'm actually really impressed by it. I think we've done a lot of work with it. I'm hoping that all the residents who have said that they want to have more communication are appreciating this. Both Brian and I put a lot of work into it. I will say I do think some of the other departments, I don't expect anybody to do something every month, but I will say I think we need a little bit better department engagement on certain things. I think there's things that BPAC, REC, DDA, they could be putting a little bit more effort into, just because those are some prime areas that residents are interested in. So, BPAC with respect to e-bikes, REC, they've got a lot of events, but they also have a lot of things that, maybe need a little more explanation than just a flyer. DDA, there's a lot of things that I think we could have put into the newsletter for October to alleviate some concerns. So I think moving forward, we need to consider that that's a really good option for people, is that the e-newsletter. I think ordinance information, and I'm going to touch on ordinance too, but I think that would be something that, ordinance 101, if you will. And I think also, and this falls under DDA, but Groseal small business support, I think they could, we could highlight a small business monthly or a couple of them, but I think, we need to do our best to really support those small businesses and make sure people are aware that they're out there and what they have to offer. Our bridges. So I know it's been kind of quiet, and I know we have the commission now in place, which is a really good thing. But prior to that, I had written some things down, and I really want to see us, and they might be working on this. So this is just from before commission. So develop a lessons learned plan from the shutdowns, things gone right, things gone wrong. I think we can learn from our mistakes. I think we did a lot of things right as well, and I think we can build on those also. I'd like to see us develop a punch list, if you will, of responsibilities for Groseal and Wayne County. So when Wayne County forgets to perhaps switch the lights, and we have to remind them. I'd like it to be, we know when it's, we're going to have a down period. Let's make sure that the lights are done, that it's a punch list. You know that here's the date and here's when you have to get ready for that. And the same prep should go into both bridges. I know we don't have a whole lot of control on the county bridge, but it's the same kind of thing where I know I've been working hard, Joe's been working hard, and Derek has also, on really having a good collaborative relationship with Wayne County. I think it's night and day, in my opinion. I think we have a much better relationship. I think we're having good conversations. So I'd like to make sure that we keep that up, and, we keep that, we're here to help you, you're here to help us type of mentality with them. And then last on the bridges was the staffing concerns. I know we were talking about that as well, and I know that the commission will address those. The next one was ordinance concerns. What can we do to support the ordinance team right now? I mean, technically, we have one ordinance person who's part-time, and I don't know if technically, she has assistants or not. I think there is, but yeah, okay, okay. But, there's been a lot of talk from residents about being more consistent on, addressing ordinance issues. And I think Mark had really good points of, be careful what you wish for, right? How much is too much, or how much isn't enough? And it's, how do you find that, that sweet spot, if you will? So there are things to do with that I'm wondering if we can, I've spoken to Ross about this, but should we have a similar process as other neighboring communities with respect to home rentals and sales where, and don't get me wrong, I lived in Dearborn Heights and I have some qualms about this, but at the same time, we're concerned about low-income housing, and we've got lower-income housing, but the concern is, the maintenance of it, right? So I think this could help us to alleviate some of that. You should not be able to rent a home if it's not up to code or this or that. And I think that benefits the community. And the last one was, I'd like to see us go through, and I've spoken with Teresa a little bit on this, but about our policy for check signing and how that is done, because I think there is concern that perhaps not the last set of checks, those were done, after board approval, but prior to that, they were being stamped, which is perfectly fine. The stamp is fine. I have no issue with that, but it was being done prior to the consent agenda approval. And I think if we're going to, have concerns about, policy and procedure, then we all need to follow the policy and procedure. So that's something I'd like to make sure that we're moving forward and we're following what needs to be followed, or modifying if it needs to be modified. And that's kind of
You
it.
set?
Yep.
Margaret, I took notes, so I just want to make sure I got them all here. So you have some group goals, so township employee pay scale, and then police and public safety, in that you want us to support the staffing and the command staff pay scale. And then some of the stuff that maybe isn't broad community goals, but is stuff you're working on. Police chief hiring, you'd like to see improvement in the engagement from BPAC, DDA, and REC. Concerns about the bridges, and you had some ideas about how to address that. And then concerns with ordinances and the check approval process.
Yep.
Okay,
And I took notes on yours too. So we're both,
excellent.
yes.
All right, very good. Bill, if it's okay with you, I have a list from Kevin. What I'd like to do is, I'd like to go through my list. I don't care if you go now or me, and I'll then read Kevin's. Are you ready to go, or would you like me to go over this?
Do yours.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay. What I'll do is I'll hit mine first, go to you, Bill, and then we'll go over Kevin's that he sent me, and I'd be happy to read that for. The first thing I want to talk about is the toll bridge. In the beginning, we had a meeting, and we were talking about what we would like to see done and what our priorities were. And I have to tell you that I actually had a meeting with Derek on this too. I don't remember now, I apologize to the other boards. If somebody had something that was bigger and affected more people on Grosse Hill, I apologize because I can't remember it. I just simply can't remember it. And we needed to get this toll bridge set. We needed to get it running. We had some hiccups in the software. I mean, it was constant. And as I stated, and again, I signed up for this. This is not a complaint. But I guess the township supervisor works over 40 hours a week and the manager's working up to 60, we had to get this done. There was no choice for the people on Grosse Hill. So that took up 4 months in the beginning where, and I apologize because I couldn't set up anything else because that was the priority. We had to get that moving. and everything, our whole energy was put towards that bridge. The business end of the bridge is working very well right now. Excellent, I would say. We have the Bridge Commission, as Margaret said. There are some excellent people on there, some very talented, intelligent people that have already come up with some ideas. We're going to work on it, we're going to look at it, and we're going to improve upon it. So in the beginning, that was the whole goal, is to get that bridge moving, and that took some time. And I'm going to apologize again that I didn't, set these meetings in stone and say, let's get this done now, our goals and objectives. I had a goal. It was to make that bridge run right. And my goal for the future for that bridge is that we don't have to come back to the taxpayers and say we need more money. We're going to make that bridge work. We're going to make it work correctly, with the means, with the revenue that we have. And I feel that we can do this. And that is my goal for the future for the bridge. Another area that we talked about is the ordinance department. What I looked at in the beginning is, we have one ordinance officer, and Julie probably is around 10 or so hours. That's what, I'm not going to get into the contract, but she does both, ordinance and animal control. So I went to Ross, I interviewed Jimmy too, who is kind of her assistant. They work hand in hand. But if possible, I'd like to get her some help. I'd like to get her some help for the road, because there's a lot of things to look at, and I think in the summertime especially. Now, in the wintertime it does slow down. I was told this by Ross and Jimmy, that they do slow down in the winter. But in the summer, if we can get her some help to look and review things over, I think we would really be ahead of the program. Now, the only other thing I would like to see, though, is some type of public meeting, some type of like a study session, but open to the public. I guess a public forum would probably be even better. I don't care what you call it. I'm sorry?
Hearing?
No, just to have the public come and talk.
Discussion.
I want to hear what the public has to say, because it's true. Margaret brought this up. We have to see what the temperature of the township is when it comes to enforcement. Now, I'm not saying that the township, if they come in and say, we don't want to enforce any ordinances, let everybody just nilly-willy do what you want to do. Well, we obviously can't do that. We have property values to think about. We have danger issues to think about. We have building issues to think about. But I really want to know, Jameson and I got together, this was a few months back, but we talked about some ordinances, and I got to say, Jameson's the one that brought them to me, so he's the thinker on this one. And there were certain things like during the summer about boats and about issues like that, but I don't want to go into depth. But I think we need to look at certain things, and then we need to hear from the public. I think it's very important to hear it's their city, and how do they want issues like this enforced. Now, there's obviously zero tolerance. You can't do this with the police department. You can't say, well, don't write tickets, don't arrest anybody, just, be good and everything will just be fine. Well, you can't do that. There has to be a checks and balances, and there has to be a checks and balances with the ordinance department. But I do feel in the summertime, if we can get her some help, a part-timer, and I know with the contract, again, I went over it with Derek, there's a possibility of maybe a 20-hour-a-week individual. And when I say the possibility, meaning through the contract, it would be allowed. So we'll have to talk about that. And then she's through POAM, but the workers here are TPOAM, correct? So there's a little bit we have to look at through there, but that's not important right now. What's important is we need to hear from the people, and then we need to see if we can get Julie and Jimmy some help, and during the summer hours, and especially maybe May to September, because things do slow down in the winter. But that was what we planned in the beginning when we got on, and again, the toll bridge took all of our time almost. So that's why we're doing this now, and I think it's important. Next one for me, I have asked the BPAC, I've tasked them with looking into an e-bike ordinance. I'm not going to say things, this is very harsh to say they're out of control, but I've seen some out of control behavior on these bikes and on these scooters, like 2 and 3 on a scooter, no helmets for young kids. It's very dangerous, and unfortunately, an individual in another city, and how I know this, I will tell you that I've told you this before, but I do work for law firms, and I have a case right now that I'm working on. Unfortunately, a kid on one of those scooters, no helmet, no nothing, got hit by a car, and he's in intensive care, and it's awful. It's awful. I don't care who's at fault. Nobody wins. No family wins in that matter. And so my point is, I got to do something to try and make it as safe as possible. And the BPAC, I have met with them already with Derek and Nicole. Correct, it's Nicole, isn't it? And Alan from BPAC are working on this. They're going to come back and report to us, and we'll report back to the board on if we think there's an ordinance. This, I also would like a public hearing. I would like to know what the people think of Grosse Ile and how, what would be the correct, I don't want to go too harsh on this, but how you want your ordinance written, what is enjoined from, what is allowed, and I want to get a good idea. I want to keep the people safe on the bike path, yet I don't want to enjoin all these young kids off the bike path and put them on the road. If somebody got hit on the road because they could have been on a bike path, there's nothing worse in my head than that I could have caused. So that's not where I'm going, but I got to make it safe for those people on the bike path. So that's where I'm at with that, and we will get back with you, but I really want to see something done before the spring. I want to talk about Wayne County real quick. Margaret touched on this. When this board got in, I have to admit, some of the people from Grosse Ile, they were obviously upset with the county, but we have not gotten better responses. We don't have the issues we used to have. We have excellent communication. They have responded to our needs, and you do know they paid for we got them to pay for all of Meridian, what they did, which leaves more money for us to do through the millage to do other roads, which is excellent. And that was our main concern, was Meridian. Excuse me. And they did it. They said they were going to do it. They kept their promise. Assad Turfy, who is right under the CEO of Wayne County, I believe he's second in all of Wayne County. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Assad is second. My communication with him and his with me, I just have not had such a good working relationship, and you have to continue this. You can't bump heads with the entity above you, or that, not that we answer to, but we request to. How about that? We request numerous things from there, and they're pretty good. And and I want to keep this. So I just want to let you know that we are going to continue an excellent working relationship with them, and it is working. That's all I can say. So next one, two things that we wanted in the beginning also is let's just call it a wage scale study. Grosse Ile Township in the past, and this is just, when have I not just told you the way it is? Sometimes raises were given, sometimes raises weren't given. We need a wage scale study. We need a high, we need a low, we need a reason for giving raises out. There's a difference between non-union and union, and I just feel that this is a very important study. It's a very important, we're looking at firms right now. We're going to be, Derek, next meeting is the interview for the wage firm on there, the next meeting. So our next board meeting, we are moving forward with this. The entry audit that I wanted, I will tell you, I wanted it 3-4 years ago. And I can't say enough, and I know Teresa, I keep kind of greasing you up a little bit, but when Teresa and I got together, when I became supervisor, she came to me and we changed a handful, along with Derek, a handful of just processes in I'll just call it the finance department. I don't care if it's treasurer, where you pay your bills, whatever it is. She came up with ways to make it better for the workers, better for Grosse Ile Township, and what that equates to is better for the people. More streamlined, more effective. She's also found some issues where, again, maybe money was in a different fund, if you will, or was put somewhere differently, and Teresa has corrected that. She comes from the auditor side of being a CPA, and I worked for a firm for, 20-some years? Were you there? And I think that as I'm looking at it, I wanted this entry audit, 3-4 years ago, and again, I'm teetering. I'm just saying I was the one that brought this up, and I'm teetering because I've seen some big changes, and I've seen some peeling of the onion back that we've never had. And she has found these things. She has changed it where our own auditors, I don't think, would be looking in that direction. So those are the two things wage study and entry audit, we're going to still look at, especially the wage study. And the last goal that I have, not just for this year, but every time we review something for the workers, that I want to make it, if we can make it more efficient, if we can make it smoother, if we can make it better for our workers to get something done, if they need a tool, if they need something brought into the township, some type of software, some type of whatever it may be to make your job functioning better, which equates to a better service to the people. We are a service-oriented place. I come from I gave service for 36 years in police work. That I was a service-oriented individual. As the police chief on Grosse Hill, I was very service-oriented. Now, being on the township board as a trustee and then the township supervisor, I feel the same way for the workers. So I'm very, very pro if we can find something for the workers and they come to me and just ask my opinion. I'm only one vote, obviously, but Teresa always has some things for me. Derek always has some things for me. And then I always have, I don't mean it this way, Derek, but he knows on Monday morning when I see him, he shakes his head, let me know what you got, because I've always come up with an epiphany over the weekend that might make it better for the workers. So that's where I'm at for this. William, why don't you go, and then I will go over Kevin's.
No, thank you. When I was putting my thoughts together initially, I had a list of some 17 different things that were worthy of comment. And then with time and effort, I thought about it more and thought, wow, if we have that times 7 people, we've got a ton of stuff. What do you put at the top of the list? Let's focus on where we're going to go with our ideas. And I remembered when I first got in office, I was sitting in a meeting with Jim Budney and Derek. And Derek happened to comment about our financing, that the money coming in is largely pre-committed. It's committed to agreed upon salaries, agreed upon health care benefits, agreed upon costs for repair to roads or to water pipes or whatever. So when we have our new ideas, we sort of have to reasonably say, where does the money come from? How are we going to do this? I think that looking back at those thoughts and comparing them to now in an abstract way, we have real reason for concern. It revolves around the word uncertainty. We can sit here, and I don't disagree at all. The second biggest thing I wanted to do was take care of the police staff. I love the police department. But if we have a part for that bridge that has to be purchased, and because the bridge is over 100 years old, it's sort of existential. It's important, but we've got to have that part. That's a tough decision to make. I'm only choosing that out because I oppose it or am for it. I'm trying to illustrate that sometimes we're going to be facing some tough issues. The more issues that we are aware of, the better we can prioritize where our efforts are. And I think that a common understanding among us and the commissions we work with is important, because if we can make to the public an agreed upon understanding of what our circumstance is, I think that people will have more confidence in our transparency, more confidence in our integrity, and have more trust when we have to come back and say to them something they don't want to hear. We're not here for the fun and games. We're here to do what is in the best interest of the public. And some of the people who have been in our positions in the past could be, let's say the can was kicked down the road a little bit farther than we might prefer right now. But basically what I'm trying to say is how much money is committed out of the money that's coming in? How much do we have to come up with some of the inserts to some of these ideas we're proposing? Many of these ideas are new ideas that have some kind of new source of funds. And one of the goals I had on my list of 17 was to have a plan to have a bigger emergency fund, which meant that we had to take in more but spend less or less in a proportionate terms. These are tough questions that we're talking about. But when we have them and we have that plan, we're better able to withstand the future and the knocks that come along. Bear with me just a second, please. When we do this research that I think ought to be first, we should be looking at what we think we need for the future in terms of whatever that function is, like someone to be in ordinance or better pay for the police staff. How many people? What are we going to need? And then where does the money come from? And what I'm talking about there with the answer to that question is more research. We have to build a tax-producing engine that will take care of that. I'm sort of against, then, for a cautious reason. I think it's positive. I don't know if I like the word against. I just want to let you know I'm trying to tiptoe through the tulips here. But we have to figure out what we have to do first and where that money is coming from and how we're going to get it. And it has some impact on what we do to build the future for the community. We have all kinds of considerations there, population density or what looks like the other stuff in the community, or the paid jobs that are on the houses, or I don't know what all. But somehow we have to make it fit and make it generate an income to make this place possible to run. And we have a better sense of teamwork, getting along together, a better sense of what we need within those priorities, then we can address some of these things and get them done and do it as we move down the road. That's where my mind is at the top of the list. And I think that when you have some kind of suit of clothes on that you can wear comfortably, the rest of this stuff will come more easily. I'm done.
Thank you. Are you good?
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Bill. I'm going to go over Kevin. Kevin had a family emergency. He's on his way out of state, actually. And I hope everything's okay. And I will read what he sent me for his goals and priorities. Let me just open this up. These are 7 current goals that Kevin wishes to relay. Require multi-year budget plans from each department manager, plans to forecast financial activity and address requirements in the area of number of employees needed, healthcare, pension, additional department expenses. Provide goals, objectives, and financial data with an implementation schedule for a minimum of 5 years. So what he's looking at is a 5-year plan he would like to see from each department manager. Utilize the department plans to establish a multi-year plan of at least 5 years for the township, which, again...
This is the secondary one. Does the township have a 5-year?
Yeah, this is, first one was, I'm sorry. The first one was for department managers. The second one is for township.
Okay.
Develop a pay scale for a full and part-time township employees. This is what we're doing right now with the wage scale firm that we're looking at. Number 4, he says, develop detailed job procedures as a means to provide a way to measure job performance. And what I requested from Derek when we got in is Derek is doing, takes each manager and does an evaluation each year on them, and I think this is part of what he's talking about. Implement an annual appraisal program for all township employees to measure performance according to documented procedures. The appraisal program would be used to address all promotions and raises. Again, this is what we were talking about. Number 6, he has developed a communications department and commission to improve communications and promote Grosse Seal Township. Number 7, continue to implement the ClearGov program. Just so you know, ClearGov is a program that we got, how many months ago was it started? In January, and we're working on that. It's a new system. And correct me if I'm wrong, does it go with is it BSA or does it?
It's not connected.
Oh, it's not connected. Okay, I just want. Okay, so it's not connected to the current BSA program. To provide easy access and complement development of the multi-year budget program. He says, thank you for your consideration of the few goals and objectives I believe are priorities at this time. I look forward to discussing your priorities at this evening's meeting. So, once again, Kevin, I hope everything's okay. And I wanted to read these to get your input. I have a couple of things before we talk together or wrap this up. On study sessions, I realize, the supervisor can either have people speak or don't have them speak, I guess, and I have no problem in getting input. But we have 2 employees here today. First off, let's do this before Jade. Is there anything you'd like to say? Okay, so Derek or Teresa, would you like to come up and say anything? Or are you just here to hear what we had to say? It's up to you, whatever you like. I have no problem listening.
Not to speak for Teresa, but I'm here.
Yeah, let's just do this so the people can hear you. I'm not sure they can, that's why.
Not to speak for Teresa, but both her and I are here to provide you support in this conversation, but also understand what the priorities of the board are. Our job as administrators are to carry out the priorities of the board. You represent the people, so in essence, we're carrying out the interest of the public as well. I'd be more than happy to provide any support, provide any answers to any questions you might have. Obviously, we've taken notes with regards to what's been mentioned tonight, and our goal would be to try to work on these things to try to help to get them achieved. But I think they're all, very good suggestions. And I think there's a number of them that we've started the process on. And so that's a good thing that, you're already starting to act on some of these priorities. Any questions for Teresa or myself this evening?
No, I just want to say, though, while you're standing there, I really want to thank both of you for your work on the bridge. We're going to talk about that later at the end of this year. I appreciate the time you put in. I know that it's not a 40-hour a week. That stunned me. I mean, it is what it is, but, we're putting 40 and 50 hours in during that toll bridge beginning, if you will. I appreciate you guys being there. You've been very understanding. Anytime, and I make a joke out of it, but I know, Derek's got to listen to me when I come in with all my weekend issues and phone calls and so on and so forth. And then Teresa always helping me out when there's something in the finance area that, the board members, we're not experts in what you guys are experts in, but we oversee what you do and we learn. And I just appreciate you being patient, explaining things to us. It does help out, and we're learning. So
Yeah, and appreciation goes our way towards you as well. I mean, if you take a look at this list, there's a number of items on here that show a recognition of, the challenges that we face. You're only less than a year into your positions, and you've learned, what challenges we have. There's a number of initiatives that I think we've been trying to pursue over the years and your continuation of that, the wage scale survey, the wage assessment, and then developing a wage scale is, has been I think a priority of administration and a priority of the employees so that they understand, future compensation and that's just one example of, things that we feel are important as well that you guys are echoing in the comments you made tonight. So appreciate that, your quick understanding of things, and also, your interest in trying to achieve some of these things that have been on the docket for a bit. So
Thank you.
thank you.
I'm sorry, Jameson, did you have something?
Well, I was just
Go
going to
ahead.
say, I don't know if the board is cool with this, but I think, listening to everyone's comments, it seems like there's 3 categories of concern, and they're financial, future ideas, and then current. I guess that's how I organize my thoughts because of the career field I'm in, but it's like, resources, future planning, and current operations. So if it's kosher with the board, I could reorganize all of this into those categories so that maybe during the next board or something, or even through private conversation, right, we can identify stuff we can agree on and eventually distill this down to, these are the priorities of this board in these categories for the next 3 years. And I think if we, to Bill's point, right, then we have a product, we have a roadmap, and if Bill wants to raise money in the emergency fund, and I've agreed that that's an important thing, I don't really have an argument to turn around and say, well, I'd rather not. I think that would be a good way to do it.
Okay.
So can I just add something too? Because I like, your thought process on this. What I also, from how I work, where I work, it's really nice to say, oh, I'd like to do these things. But at the same time, it's really important to say, here's my roadmap to how I believe we can get there. It's very easy for people to be negative or to point fingers or to say, oh, you should have done this, you should have done that. But it's a lot more difficult to, how do you go through the implementation process? So I think for every one of these, I do have a, how do we get there? So I think that's very important, that anybody that's going to give us a list, I think we need to work on that too.
Can we do this? Do you
So
get,
sorry.
No.
That could be added later, right?
no, could you guys, do you mind doing this? Could you come up with,
You want me to work with Margaret?
I don't know if I can do that.
no, you can do it
Yes,
separate.
we can work together on it.
You can do it. I'm in the middle, so what I was going to ask you is, can you come up with the process you believe that would be best? Because we all have about the same priorities. And then Bill kind of gave the umbrella of them and how to achieve them. Could you write up a process?
Yeah.
Send it to me, and then maybe we'll get together too.
Mm-hmm.
And what we can do is we can have another meeting of this nature. But Derek, I want to say one thing but you hit it. If I look at my goals and objectives, and I'm looking at Margaret when she's actually reading it, I can see it, and I can see Jameson's. Half of these we've done, and we're right in the middle of them. So I don't want the people to think, oh, you came up with a bunch of goals, and now it's 9 months, and
Joe, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I'm excited.
Oh,
What you're talking about could be put into that newsletter that Margaret's talking about, and we could be telling those people we're working on making progress and making it organized in a diligent, united way.
yes.
I think that
And
would be
half of
great.
it, if you go down my list, the bridge, the ordinance department, we're already working on, the e-bikes we're working on, the roads we're working on, the wage scale we'll be voting on, the entry audit we'll be voting on, and our staff making things better each day is happening every month.
Right.
So we're already, and then what you said, Jameson, what you said, Margaret, we're already halfway into these. So I want the people to know this isn't just, we're starting fresh with all these. This was our goals, and this is where we're at. But would it be possible for you to come up with that and send it to me?
Absolutely.
Jameson, can you do the same thing?
I think Teams. Yeah. So we'll create a living document on Teams. We'll work on it together, and
Yeah.
then.
Oh,
we'll
that's
get it
fine.
back.
However you two would like to do that, because I would like to see that list, and it would help me, it would help us, and it would help the workers.
I think you can share on OneNote too.
Yeah, actually, we can do
OneDrive
that
or
too, if
one-
you want to use that.
I love OneNote because
OneNote, okay.
it's automatically saves. You can have, it's very, very organized, if you will.
Okay.
But just to add to your point, because you know what I didn't touch on is like, so I have, just like all of you do, I have a list of accomplishments that attach to the, the priorities too. Like where I feel we have a stronger police commission, right? I feel I contributed to that. The developing a plan for the future PD, leading the police chief interview process. So I think we all have, like, I know you like to beat yourself up a little bit, and you shouldn't. You work very hard, and this bridge was a big thing, and you and Derek put tons of time into it, Teresa as well, and that doesn't mean that we should have had this particular meeting any sooner. I don't think, so we're 10 months in now, I think. I don't think this is bad timing because it's not like, I don't know, I've been working on a lot of things, right? You guys have as well. So it's not that we weren't doing things. We just didn't talk about it as soon as maybe you wanted to, but, to get an infrastructure moving the way you did, as quickly as you did, and to manage the other infrastructure that isn't ours to necessarily manage, and to work with a team that, there seemed to be a little bit of dysfunction before this board. And I think, like you said, we're collaborating with them much better. We're having good conversations. So, you've done a great job. Don't.
Well, thank you, but I still,
Yeah, and I think it takes a minute for people to get their feet under them
Yeah.
in this kind of job, right?
Right.
Like they say in a leadership position, don't make any changes for 90 days, but that assumes you're working 40 hours a week, right?
yeah.
I don't think I fully understood our budget until we went through 2 budget cycles, 2020, 2021, or whatever it was. So I think the timing is perfect.
Okay, well, thank you all and your input. Welcome, Mark. Do you have a list which you'd like to go over and just tell what we done, Mark, is we went through our goals and objectives, just kind of we didn't go deep into it. We went kind of the surface part of it just to say what we're looking at, and then our next step we'll see where we're at with each of them. And a lot of our goals and objectives, Mark, we either are voting on soon, working on them. So not all of them like are nothing is going on. So why don't you give yours, and we'll go from there.
Bill,
Then we'll wrap it up.
first of all, I just want to apologize to everybody on the board here and the audience for being late. Sometimes things happen, things get in the way. I do have some stuff written down, unfortunately. They're on my computer, which is on my kitchen table.
It's all right. Just
When I
give the
ran out
basics.
when I ran out of the house, I left it there. But regardless,
All right.
some of the things, I think we're headed in the right direction on some of the issues. And one of them for me during that campaign, I know I mentioned fiscal responsibility. I mentioned some kind of ordinance overhaul. I shouldn't say overhaul, but I guess a review is probably a better way to say it. And the zoning issues, and that is actually underway. Some of the way the ordinances are being applied or enforced now, that has changed. We do have a new structure. I worked I've talked to Ross about a few things, but there's a new procedure in place that to help try to expedite things. So that's moving in the right direction. The fiscal responsibility was a big thing. I think I made it clear during our last budget session or season, which was the first time for most of us on the board to go through. We have to have financial plans in place, or however you want to call it, long-term financial goals. But next budget season, if those aren't in place, well, I guess I'm probably having more things to say about the budgets at that point. However, ClearGov's already up and moving in the right direction. I think that's going to be a great catalyst for us to bring some plans together with all of our departments, and it would help the board to do an overall plan for the township to figure out where we need to be financially, where we are and where we need to be, and how we're going to get there. There was a few other things too on the list. The bridge was a big thing, and that's moving forward. I think we're doing pretty decent with that right now. I know a lot of work's put into it, been put into it by our staff, and congratulations and kudos to you guys. I know that was a big undertaking. A lot of that was started before we took these seats. And I think with what we had to work with and moving forward, I think everybody's has done a pretty good job with it. I know you put a lot of time and effort into it as well. So I think the bridge is moving in the right direction. Do we still have things to do? Yes, we do. And again, I apologize. I did have some stuff written out, but I just simply don't have it with me. But I think the overall big things I was concerned about when I first ran for office was mainly fiscal responsibility, the bridge issues, the roads, and some of the infrastructure, which appears to be moving in the right direction, like I already said. It looks like we're working on it, and I think we're going to progress as we move forward through the rest of this election cycle.
All right, thank you very much, Mark. What I'd like to do is maybe some months down the line, we're going to work on some of these things, and I'd also like to come back, and maybe I'll do it in a supervisor's report during a meeting, so we don't have to have a separate meeting. But kind of go over with your input, all of you, what goals and objectives that we can actually have checked off already. And I think that shows the people need to know what we're doing here. I mean, do we just come up here twice a month and aye, nay? No, but I want them to know what we're doing. Yeah. So I think it's just very important, and I'll come back and we'll do it that way. Now, once again, I want to just make sure I do like some study sessions again where there's input. Jade, you're good. Derek, you're good. Are you good?
Oh, spit it out, Teresa.
Wait a minute. Whoa. I don't like that. Could you please come up, young lady?
We're going to get your 2 cents.
Could you please come up and tell me what that means?
Just a couple things.
Oh, okay.
A couple things.
Right.
So with ClearGov, I'm really excited to go into this next budget season. We've got everything in place. The department heads are kind of waiting on me to get the basic information in so that they can complete their budget. So that's the property tax revenue, salaries, benefits. We're getting everything set up for open enrollment right now. And so that will be coming soon, and then they can start working on their budgets. I did have a meeting with ClearGov about, they have 3 other modules that we don't currently have. So just as a preliminary meeting, getting some information, I asked them about the personnel module, the capital planning module, and the strategic planning module. And we kind of, if we did this would be the plan. The personnel and capital planning would come first, and then the strategic planning would come after our budget season. I do have some initial pricing information. I had the meeting at the beginning of September. We had a lot going on in September with getting everything off the ground with the RFPs for the entry audit and the compensation study. So I just didn't feel it was the right, and we have the staffing companies for the toll bridge as well. So I didn't feel it was like the right time to present it. And so I'm looking to the board to tell me when you would like to have that information presented. We would probably do something similar to what we did when we first started with ClearGov, have a Zoom meeting with the person who I met with to provide the basic information over those 3 modules and give you the opportunity to ask a question. So it's a presentation. So I just
That
need
would make
feedback
sense.
from the board as far as when you would like to look at that. Initially, the plan was to try and incorporate potentially the personnel module and the capital planning with this current budget season. So we probably need to do that relatively soon.
So doing it in steps is what you're talking about.
Yes.
Okay, that's the best.
And I do have some basic pricing information as well.
Yes, I
So-
think that would be the best to move forward with that.
Okay. And I just wanted to clarify a little bit about the check signing. We went from a treasurer who was in our office every day because he was retired. And our current treasurer works just like a lot of you do. And I worked with him to try and find a good, consistent schedule so that we knew when to have things ready for him. and that would work with our deadlines. The process of stamping the checks before they were approved was an option. We did it for a while, drove me crazy. So I initiated going back to not doing that. Either way, no check ever goes out of this building until after the board approves the consent agenda. So I just wanted to
All right, thank you for that.
share that. It's been a process of working with Treasurer Flavin with our process in order to meet our deadlines and send in our payments for our bills in a timely manner so that they're not late. And sometimes the postal service doesn't cooperate with us. We still have some checks that are delayed horribly, months, and we have to reissue them and things like that. So I actually did look at doing ACH payments. I spoke with the business manager at Rosehill Schools because I know they do that. And I said, how do you have the board approve it before it goes out? They don't. They actually change their policies and procedures and allow the payments to go out, and then a report is run similar to a check register, but it's always after the fact. And I'm not sure we're ready for that quite yet.
Those are their
But-
standard monthly bills though, right, Teresa? I
I'm
mean,
sorry?
those are standard bills.
No, they do almost everything by.
Everything is
yes,
done that way,
yes.
okay.
So right now, there are some standard monthly payments that I have to do ACH for, which are the employer HSA contributions and the payment to MERS. Those I do every month. Pretty much everything else we do by check. And at the schools, they do almost everything by ACH payment. And so I wanted you to have that information, so when you're thinking about different things like.
Yeah, and
Thank you.
efficiency, yep.
Thank you.
Yep. Obviously, when there's an emergency, at least I discuss it with the township manager, trying to discuss it with the treasurer. He was out of town recently, but he sees the check after the fact, and I mark it was emergency payment or for whatever reason it needed to go out. Those are very few and far between, but they do happen every once in a while. Or if there's standard bills like for utilities, insurance payments, if it's coming up to a deadline, I usually email the board treasurer and say, hey, here's the situation, is it okay to let them stamp the checks and let them go out? So usually he knows. But they're always there for him when he comes in, usually comes in once a week on the weekends to take care of it. So, I think that's it.
Thank you.
And yeah, and you know, I have to say, Maureen and the entire staff at the toll bridge, we couldn't have done it, this transition without them. The company for the software for the bridge passes, it's been a challenge working with them. And Maureen and I are still
You're being
meeting
polite.
Huh?
You're being polite.
Yeah, I try.
Use the word challenge.
I met with Maureen at the bridge yesterday. We're almost there with a plan. I'm still not getting the reports I need. And that may be problematic during our audit next year. So we're halfway through the year, so I'm hoping things will come together soon.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Maureen, our operations manager to the bridge. You're right. Without her, she's been an incredible employee. All right, so we went over the goals, we went over objectives, we went over possibly timing of them, we went over what we're doing so far, what have already has been taken care of, what we're going to take care of. Jameson and Margaret, you got a task. I appreciate that, and then we'll move forward and we'll do this again and state where we're at. So I think we're good tonight. I need a motion to adjourn.
Can I add one
Oh.
more thing? I'm sorry.
No, Good.
So
Jump
just
in.
really quick, to Jameson's SRO, I just want to say, this is something the police commission has looked at multiple times. I think this is a school thing more so than a township thing, with respect to being able to support and staff an SRO. But we're obviously happy to walk through any of that, and if there's any ideas, we'll be happy to, consider those. And the other thing, to Bill's point, you guys are always able to provide anything for the newsletter. I think the more information that, if you have things you want to say to residents, that's a great way to do it. And then one more thing, it was mentioned, we don't have a communications department, and that's not accurate. Brian Friel runs our communications department, and he does a great job. There are a lot of things that I think people don't realize get done in that department, and to state that there isn't one is definitely not accurate. So I just want to point that out. Brian Friel is the department manager of communications. So, and if anybody has questions on what we do, feel free to ask, but there's a lot of work that is involved in what gets done there. And that was it.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. End of meeting is 7:02. Thank you.